All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We thank you for joining us. This is week 3 of our 3-week webinar series, and this week we are covering our non-nursing hours. And so today you'll hear a little bit more about what we're gonna do. If you did not have a look at the flyer, and our moderator will be so kind enough as to share with you what our session is about today. So thank you for those of us who are joining us here, those who are on YouTube, and welcome. Now, of course, anybody wants to guess what's the next thing that's going to happen now that I've said welcome? Who wants to guess? Anybody on Zoom to raise their hands and tell us what's going to happen? Everybody's quiet, nobody? All right, since nobody wants to guess, let me just double check. So we've started every session with a brain teaser. We want to get you in the mind and the frame of mind to be listening and to be learning. So today's brain teaser, you just got a quick glance. We are going to unscramble some words. I am setting the timer. You are getting 30 seconds. And please remember the instructions. Write down the words you have unscrambled. But when you are going to type in the chat, please ensure you only type how many words you actually got. So if you only unscrambled 5, put 5. If you didn't unscramble any, then we hope that you will scramble it something, whatever the brain teaser is on Wednesday, but you will only have 30 seconds. And as we progress during the meeting, we will contact you to say, please send your evidence so we can see what are the words you wrote down. So let me go again. We're unscrambling words for our brain teaser today. It's gonna come up on the screen. You are going to write the word down as you've unscrambled it, but when you type in the chat, you will type 4, 5, 3, 2, 6, whatever the amount is. And then as we contact you, because we do want the person who unscrambled the most to tell us, send us their evidence. So if everybody's ready, have a little bit of pencil, a little bit of paper. I'm going to go right ahead and share my screen. No starting until I say start. All right? All right, 30 seconds starting right now. Go.
This is Spanish.
English words. All right, and the time is up. So let me repeat the instructions. If you are writing the words down, that's great because we want to get the evidence. But now you're going to type in the chat on YouTube, in Zoom, the number of words you were able to unscramble. So go right ahead and post your answers. And now I will hand over to our lovely moderator today. Today we have a male member of our chapter joining us to moderate. And we want to give a warm welcome to our moderator, Mr. Desmond Croker, who will be guiding us through the session this afternoon. Right over to you, Desmond.
Oh, thank you very much, Cheryl. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another of our sessions where we work towards helping our nurses to become more equipped in the delivery of care. So we want to welcome all of you on Zoom platform as well as those on YouTube. I trust that this session indeed will be one that will be informative for you so that you can apply the concepts that is taught here today in your everyday life. Just a reminder for especially those on Zoom platform to keep your microphones muted so that you won't be disturbing any of the persons who is presenting if you have to say something or so. And a reminder for those who are on YouTube who have been following us for the past 3 weeks, and information for those who have not, who is joining us for the first time. Please remember to put your name in the chat for YouTube so that we can know that you are here and give a count for your presence at this session. Okay, so that's about it for the rules. This afternoon, we have with us, well, this week, as was mentioned by the president, is the week that we're looking at our non-nursing sessions. And this afternoon, we have with us Professor Stewart Mccoy. Professor Mccoy is host of the RJR Spanglish feature. She recently joined the Center of Excellence in Teaching and Learning at Mona in a full-time capacity as the university's faculty educational developer. Previous to that, she was an associate professor and distance learning coordinator at UTech Jamaica. She is an educator, researcher, and an e-learning enthusiast. She has more than 30 years experience working in the secondary and tertiary level of education, locally, regionally, and internationally. Her research interests include game-based learning, learner profiling, and online learning environments. This afternoon, Professor Stewart Mccoy is going to talk with us on online platform etiquette. I am excited about this session today. I am sure that you are as well. This, especially for us educators, I believe is something that will really work well for us, seeing that we are transitioning a lot since the advent of COVID to this online platform that is proven to be sometimes so challenging to us. So without further ado, I will now hand you over to our presenter for today, Professor Stewart Mccoy.
Thank you very much. If you can hear me clearly, just put a thumbs up in the chat. So look at the bottom where you see your reaction and just indicate by putting a thumbs up or a smiley face or something, just to make sure that you're hearing me clearly. All right, I saw, yes, wonderful. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for having me. I just wanted to make two things clear. One, I am not sure how titles work, but I'm not professor in the academic term. So I am Mrs. Stewart Mccoy, and if you're using professor in the sense that I'm an academic, it works. But because here in Jamaica, we carry that title professor to mean one who has reached the highest level of academic attainment, I am not there. All right, so just letting you know. For ease of conversation, call me Michelle, please. The second thing is, I am glad he didn't say that I was an expert. I'm an enthusiast. And as Mr. Croker pointed out, today I am looking at the whole matter of web-based learning platforms, okay? We're looking at the rules and guidelines which we should be governed by. Now, my internet has been giving me a little bit of challenge, so I am going to turn it off for a little bit And whenever, well, right after I've done the activity, I will turn it back on. So I will be moving in and out where the video is concerned because the internet is giving me a little bit of a trouble. All right. Now, we are going to be looking at web conferencing platforms. Okay. We call them video conferencing platforms. We call them web conferencing platform. And most times we tend to put everything under the heading Zoom. So we're going to be looking at web conferencing platforms, video conferencing platforms. And as Mr. Cooper pointed out, it has become commonplace. It is almost like a piece of furniture that we use now. It has been coming before COVID-19, but now that COVID is here, it has become commonplace. We cannot escape into interacting with our students or having meetings without using a video conferencing platform. Now, I am assuming at this point that we are operating with novice-like skills. If you have more intermediate and advanced skill, wonderful. There's nothing wrong with reinforcement. But if you are at the basic, you have nothing to worry about, I got you covered. Okay, so we're going to start this activity. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start this activity with an online task. So let me just jump over. I want you please to go to menti.com. That is MENTI, menti.com. So the information is on your screen. So you're going to go to menti.com and you're going to enter the code 23099578. So you go to menti.com and you use the code 23099578. And of course, it doesn't matter if you're logged into Zoom or if you're on YouTube, you can just hop across. And you're going to enter one adjective that describe web conferencing for you. Any one adjective. In fact, probably I shouldn't lock you into an adjective. Any one word that you would use to describe web conferencing for you. Okay, so be as honest as possible. We're not judging you. And I'm giving you 2 minutes to do this. The information will pop up on the screen so you can just write. So you go to menti.com, www.menti.com. You enter the code 23099578. And then you're going to write one word, any one word, good, bad, or ugly, that describe web conferencing for you. Okay, the first word that is up, laborious. So I'm just gonna turn my video off until the activity is finished. Now keep them coming. I see laborious, I see convenient. Oh, I see beautiful. I like that word being used to describe a platform. And then the opposite came right up, complicated, inclusive. Another 60 seconds and then we can, I see global, I see challenging. For 2 seconds more. Okay, 20 seconds. All right, I think we can work with this. So what I'm seeing on the screen is that for you, you find web conferencing platforms or the whole process of using web conference to be something that is laborious. Yes, it is time consuming, but the more you use it, the easier it becomes. It's beautiful. As I said, I like that word. It's complicated. It is complex at points. It's convenient because it covers so many different things. It's challenging. Some seem challenging, hard, complicated, laborious. And then I see inclusive, convenient, informative, global, and blessings. So if I'm to look at the adjective, the words that you have used here, I would say that I would probably give it a 50-50, but now I'm going probably a 60-40, where you see where it is interesting, it is convenient, it is beautiful, it is inclusive, it is informative, and so much. And indeed, it is all that. It is all that and more. And so I am here to take you through the online platform etiquette. All right. I'm here to just walk you through basic setting up for those of us who set up a few tips and tricks, and then we'll go into general guidelines and etiquette that we should bear in mind. All right. So of course we already did this. And so for the next thing, here I have the icons of a couple popular. Now there are a number of web conferencing platforms, many more than I thought existed. In fact, when I did a little research, I found out that there were more than 20 popular web conferencing platforms. Did you know that? I didn't know that. For some people, the only thing they know is Blackboard, Collaborate, and Zoom. All right. So here I have on the screen 6 icons, and I have deliberately left, for the record, I have deliberately left out Blackboard Collaborate because that is the official platform that the university uses. So I have the outside of Blackboard Collaborate 6 common icons. Now, what I would love, and Mr. Croker, I'm going to ask you, and Ms. Garrix, I'm going to ask you to help me with the chat because I'm not seeing the chat just now. Can anybody successfully name all 6? If you want to raise your hand, for those of us who are in Zoom, if you want to raise your hand and name them, that would be beautiful. So I have 6 icons, and I don't want you to go Google the icons. I want you to tell me if you can identify the icons that are on my screen, please. So you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat, and I'll ask for some assistance if anybody is writing in the chat. So can anybody recognize all 6? All right, I see Teams, Zoom, Duo, Skype, that's 4. I see GoToMeeting, I see Zoom. It would be good if you could tell me in what order, because they're all over the place, huh? All right, so let us not use the time to spend on this for too long. Let us go. So what are the 6 common ones that I have here? Well, the first one is, where are we? Okay, here we go. Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is a contender and it is named among the popular platforms. Okay, then we have Zoom, which is what we're focusing on today. And Zoom has been a contender and a half. Then we have Google Meet. Okay, and we know that at the secondary level, this is what we use a lot in the secondary and primary school level here in Jamaica as the official platform that the teachers and the students use. So that's Google Meet. We have Skype, but this in particular is Skype Meeting, which is the business component, which allows you to have just about all the features or just as many features for large meetings, and it has the kind of features that the other contenders have. This icon is for GoToMeeting, right? And then we have Cisco WebEx. So these are among the popular web conferencing platforms which are being used and which can be used in your meetings, your large meeting, your conferences, your seminars, and of course with your classes, your students. And we are now going to focus on Zoom. So I'm gonna just ask you to bear with me. I am about to jump over to where we are going to walk through hosting. All right. So here I had for just a minute something that speaks about what it is we're doing and how it is we're doing. So we're looking at the common web conferencing platforms, which we just did. Okay. We're looking at how to host or schedule a meeting. And then we're going to be looking at some web conferencing guidelines and etiquette that we need to bear in mind. And if you have any questions at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. All right. Now, I need to also explain to you that I am show and telling in Zoom about Zoom. So there are some things which I'll have to talk you through, because if I were using a different web conferencing video tool, it would have been a little bit easier for me to show you certain features. So I'm going to talk you through, and I know that there is the chat. If you have any questions, we will address them there. So after I go through the hosting, if you have any comments or questions, I will field them, and then we will go into the web conferencing etiquette part, where I will go through the guidelines, and then if you have any comments and questions, we'll take those. All right. So I'm going to just hop over to so let me close this. I'm going to hop over to Zoom. Now I am already logged in. So I am just going to show you. So there are two ways that you can access your Zoom, all right? You have the web-based client, which is where I am now, and I am at zoom.us. You also have the desktop application, which means that you would download the application so that you can have access to it on your computer and you can work. Now, most of the things that you can do on the desktop or on the phone itself, there's a mobile app as well, you can do from the web-based, but there are a few quirks and twinks that you have to set up on the web-based platform before you can have full access to it on the desktop or the mobile components. All right, so here I am at Zoom, and so I am just going to click on my account. All right, and it isn't asking me to sign in. This is technology for you. So it isn't asking me to sign in, but it isn't showing me my details. All right, let's host a meeting and see what happens here. All right, so this is one of the lessons that we need to learn. When we are going in, we probably need to ensure that, there we are, that we have a little workaround. So if it doesn't go in right away, you just log yourself out and log in. So this is my personal Zoom platform. When you are here, there are three areas that you're going to need to pay attention to. The first place that I want us to do is to go to the profile. All right. Now you can change your profile name and your profile picture here. So you may have noticed that when I turn my camera off, so I'm going to turn my camera off, the video off, you'll see that there is a profile picture of me. Okay. The profile picture can be set here, or it can be set on within the meeting itself. So I'll walk you through both ways. But one of the things that I wanted to point out to you here, not all your sessions are classes. Sometimes you have an event as like this one, and you probably don't want a personal name. You want the name of the organization. So here is a good place where you can make the changes. So you log in and you move across to your profile, and then at the top right, you will see your edit icon, your edit link. If you click on their edit link, this is where you can put in the sort of information that you want. So it has your account information, the name that you want, but it also has the display name. Now, what is the display name here? You know, each time you get an invitation, it says, Michelle Stewart McCoy is inviting you to a meeting. That is what would happen. All right. So this is where you would change that kind of information. All right. Of course, you can put in the department. You can put in all of these little things if you want. All right. And then, of course, when you are finished, make sure you save the changes. All right. So this is one of the things that you need to do. The other thing that you can do is that you can change the profile picture that everyone sees when you log in. And if you don't have a profile picture and you have a Zoom account, I can show you how to do it from here, but then I'm also going to show you how to do it from the actual application that we're in. So you can change your picture here as well by simply clicking on change. And you can look for the picture that you want to upload. So let me just change this picture. So I'm going to click on upload. They give us some information. So I have a picture on the desktop. Here it is. I click upload. And what you will realize is that it will tell you that you need to have a JPEG, a GIF, or a PNG. So it won't take anything that tends to work with Mac as a default. That is the TIFF. And you need to just double check to make sure that the image is either a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF, which is good because these are common picture types. All right. Now you also will realize that you have resizing. So you can resize. All right. So that's just about what I have. It won't allow me to get any bigger than that. And it gives you a little preview in the window. So when you're happy with that, you simply click save and it will save your picture. So your new picture is there. Okay. Now that is simply if you're interested in changing or adjusting your profile. What is more important for you when you're going to be scheduling a meeting or hosting a meeting is you setting up a meeting, and you can set it up here, or you can go to the left where it says meetings. So if we click to the left where it says meetings, what you'll realize is that you have upcoming meetings, previous meetings, meeting templates, and so forth. And if you scroll down, you will realize that there's a listing of all your meetings. All right. And then you have schedule a meeting here. So if you click on the tab to the left, you'll realize that you have more information. If you just want to go straight to the meat of the matter and click and start scheduling your meeting, you can click on schedule a meeting here. So I'm going to click on schedule a meeting. Now, when you click on schedule a meeting, another window opens, and this is where you're going to be putting in all the information that is relevant to the meeting that you're setting up. What is the name of the meeting? Please do not call it my meeting, Michelle meeting, meeting one or anything. Give it a name that identifies the meeting. So I'm going to call this one Zoom seminar. Let's do that again. So Zoom seminar 101. Okay. Where it says description, you can put in a description, but you don't have to put a description in. It's optional. If you want to put a description in, you can simply put week 3 seminar on Zoom or web conferencing platforms or anything like that. Okay. The when has to do with the date. If you click my internet is dragging, so it's taking a little while. So let's try that again. So if you can click inside, or you can click the calendar icon, and then you set the date. Now you can't set a meeting date for the dates that are already gone. So you know that it would be dates coming up. And then if you want to move through, depending on when your meeting or your event or your class is set, you would then go through the calendar. All right. So let us leave it for May 3. Okay. And you would then select the drop down and select the time. So let us let this meeting be at 2 o'clock. in the afternoon. If you want it to be an AM meeting, you would have to change this to AM, but you'll have to also ensure that you double check your time. All right. And how long will this meeting be? I'm leaving it for an hour, but of course you can decide how long you want the meeting to be. And if you scroll, you'll realize that you can go up to an all-day meeting, 24 hours. So I'm going to leave it at 1 minute, 1 hour, and it's just an hour flat. The time zone, by default, they're using the Eastern Time, US. No, this is GMT -4. I think we are at 5. So I am double guessing here. If you would have to just double check to find out what is Jamaica's time zone, and as soon as you do that, you would select it. But I think we are at -5 and not -4. So I'm going to leave it at -4 so that we can see the time. All right, so I'll leave it at that, but I'm almost sure that we're at -5. Okay, and if this is something that is going to be every week, you would select recurring. And when you select recurring, you get a drop down that tell you how often you want the recurrence to be. Is it going to be daily? Is it going to be weekly? Are you going to be repeating it every day? And is there an end date? All right. So this is if you have a recurring session. If it's just a one time, we leave it be. When it comes onto the waiting room, waiting rooms are you use a waiting room depending on whether or not you have a particular process. Okay, so depending on the purpose of you setting up your web conferencing session, you can decide if you are having a waiting room. If you're having a class and you want some of your students to come in, and you probably don't want to have a waiting room. If you set up a waiting room, you would have to be there to admit the persons in. So when you log into Zoom, you realize that it said you are waiting for the host to admit you into the room. All right. So you can activate the waiting room, but it is dependent on the purpose of your session. So I have left it here. You can easily just deselect it. Okay. And then, of course, something else that is critical when you're scheduling your meeting is whether or not you want the video cameras to be on or off and the audio to be on or, well, if you want to mute your participants when they come in. Now, some people argue that it should be on, but I tend to say leave it off. You know, sometimes you log in and you just need to, do a few adjustments here and there. It is good if the camera is off and then you turn it on when you're ready to share your screen. Okay, and the same goes for the meeting options. So allow participants to join anytime will not work if you have activated the meeting room. Okay, because it means that they cannot join before you, or even if they join, they will be in the meeting room waiting until they are allowed in. It is critical that you mute your participants on entry, especially in larger groups. Okay, so like a session like this one, your lecture sessions, if you're having a lecture series, you need to mute them so that any kind of distracting noises, sometimes people are on phones, you have babies crying, you have all kind of distracting noises. It is usually good for you to mute the participants upon entry, and then in welcoming them and talking to them, you point out to them that the mics can be turned on. They should unmute themselves when they are going to talk, and remind them to put themselves back on mute when you are finished. The good thing about it is that as the presenter or the host of the meeting, you can always mute all during your meeting. All right. Do you want to automatically record meetings? So you can set that up from here as well. It may not be the wisest thing depending again on the purpose of the meeting. So if it's a meeting in which sensitive information is going to be shared and so forth, you probably want to leave it off and then make a suggestion to record, which you can do while the meeting is in session. All right. Now, the other things that are here, you don't have to worry about. And then you would click save when you're finished. All right. So you always need to remember to click save when you're finished. When you click save, what you will get is some information that summarizes what your session, which you have just set up, looks like. So it tells you what the topic of the session is, your Zoom Seminar 101. It is May 3 at 2 p.m. and it tells us that it's Eastern time. And you can add it to the calendar. All right. So many of us tend to have or have our calendars activated. If you click add to calendar, and if I'm going to just click on add to the Google Calendar, what it does, I should not have done that because my internet is acting. All right, never mind. But what it does is that it actually adds the event to your calendar so that you can be reminded. All right. And then you can also send this kind of reminder out. So just as how you set up an event in your calendar when you're setting up, whether in Outlook or Google, and you also have Yahoo, you can set up, you can just simply click add it to Google Calendar, and you can then send it out to invitees. You get your meeting ID and you get a passcode, which is automatically generated in Zoom. All right. So you have a meeting ID, and the meeting ID and passcodes are usually for those who are joining not using the Zoom application on the desktop. So for those who are signing in from a browser or those who are using their mobile devices, they would definitely need to have these. If you have the application installed on your computer, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would simply click the link and it would open on your desktop. All right, so that is what that is about. All right, and here you have the invitation link, and you have the option to copy the link from here, which is what you would probably send out. So if you click on copy invitation, it opens it up and gives you all possible details about the meeting. Now, here, because I didn't change the name, it says Michelle Stewart Mccoy is inviting you to a Zoom meeting. All right, if we had changed the name to say the Institute of Web Conferencing Specialists, then that is what it would have said here. And here it gives you what the topic is, the time of the meeting, the link that you should join, the meeting ID, and the passcode. Now, I usually don't send the rest of this part. I usually just copy here and send that part out when I'm sending it out. Okay. So you don't have to send everything out, but it just provides you with all possible options. All right. And then you would copy that and you would send it out in a link, in an email, or whatever. So all that information is here, so that is there. Okay. So that is what you would have to bear in mind when you're setting up a meeting using the web-based platform. Another thing that you would probably need to be aware of would be the recording section. So if I click on recordings, what it does, it allows me to see my cloud-based recordings, because you can record to the cloud depending on the package that you're given a certain size, and therefore you can click to record, which does not record on your computer, but it is recorded to the cloud. And then you have the local recordings, which are the recordings that are downloaded that are saved on your computer. So when you click to record, this is what happens. So it gives you the different options. All right. Now, one of the things that you need to bear in mind whenever you're going to do recording, okay, and I will more than likely repeat this. When you're recording and you'll see the icon that shows that your recording is in progress. One of the things that you need to bear in mind is that in order for the recording to be converted and be saved, you have to end the meeting. So it doesn't matter if everybody else have left and you're still in. As the host, you have to end the meeting before the conversion begins and the saving to the cloud or to your computer. So that is just something that you should bear in mind. All right. Now, if you go to settings, so this is another thing that you need to bear in mind when you're setting up your meeting. And this is whether you're a presenter or you're a host, you're setting up your meeting. If you go to settings, settings is where you can make certain tweaks. And these are usually affected in the web-based version or the mobile version. So here we have the waiting room, and this is where we turn the waiting room on or off. Okay, so if I didn't want the waiting room for any of my meetings, I would just click this to turn it off. Then we have the waiting room options. Now the waiting room options tell me that I can edit, all right, or I can customize. So here it says who will go in the waiting room. And right now, I want everybody to go into the waiting room, but I leave that. If I wanted to customize the waiting room, however, I would click on customize and you'll realize that this is the generic meeting, the expressions that you tend to get. Please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon. But if you click the editing icon, you can change it. So if I wanted to change it, of course, you wouldn't put something like that for a professional meeting, but I'm just showing you that you can simply click the edit button. Excuse me 1 second. So sorry about that. So you can click the edit button and change the kind of meeting message that comes up. The other thing that you can do for your waiting room is that you can put a logo. So if you have a logo, you can actually put a logo. I'm not going to put a logo, but I'm just going to show you that if you click the plus sign here, it takes you to where you can upload a picture, and you upload the picture and it would be here. When they go to the meeting room, they would then see the logo and see your message. All right. Now, the logo has to be a particular dimension. So here it tells you that it ought to be 60 by the maximum of 400. So it can't be a very big image in terms of the dimensions. Neither can it be a very big image in terms of the size. All right. So I'm going to close that. So essentially, you would have set up your meeting room with whatever details you want there. And these are on, so we leave these because these just essentially talk about whether or not you want to be able to activate a passcode when they're joining by phone, which we leave so that people can enter the meeting code when they're joining. All right. We want to find out if only authenticated users, meaning only people who have Zoom accounts or something like that can join. We leave that off because we would love for people who don't have access to the Zoom app to be able to join using the browser and so forth. So we would leave those. And of course, these are the other things that we were looking at when we were setting up the meeting. But this is where you would come to the settings section to make your changes. All right. And so when you have time and you can just log in, remember that there is a free version. So you can log in and take a look at what is there. So the settings is where if you want to make certain types of changes, you come here and you do so. So all of that is there. And the ones that are highlighted, you pay attention to the ones. So can people say chat? Can everybody chat? Are you allowing people to private chat? You know, so those things. And if you don't want that, you simply turn it off. So I can simply click to turn it off. And then, of course, well, I'm not going to disable it. I'm going to leave it on. All right. Do you want somebody to be able to co-host? You need to think about that as well, depending on the purpose of your session. If you want somebody to be able to also have certain controls of the meetings, you can make that determination. In interactive sessions, you may want to start with a poll or wrap up with a poll. This is where you would turn it on. When you turn it on here, it shows on your screen when you're in your meeting session. All right. And so I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. All right, where you can just see that there are quite a number of things that are set up in the settings aspect. And therefore, when you're setting up your meeting, you would need to take a look at that as well. So if you're using the web-based platform, there are that's three I gave you, three different areas that you need to look at. All right, so you have the profile, you have the meetings, or I can't count four. So there is the profile, the meeting, the recordings, and your settings. Okay, are you still with me? I am going to take a pause right here where I will field any question and that you may have based on what we just did. So are there any questions? No? We're good? All right. So having done that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so that I can just walk you through some other things. Okay. So I've stopped sharing my screen and you have set up your meeting. Your persons have gotten the link. They are there. They are waiting. They're in the waiting room and so forth. Now, in your desktop, on your desktop application, which is what I am in now, you have several features. And this is where, because we're using Zoom, I'm actually going to be doing some talking and you follow on your screen. So when you log in, you tend to see other persons who are logged in. All right. So you see their names or you see their photographs. One of the things that we are reminded of constantly is that we should try to encourage people to change their names if they're logging in with a phone, or if they don't have a photograph, we can encourage them to put a photograph up and so forth. So when you log in onto your Zoom platform, it's one of the things that you can do as a host. All right, you can say to persons, we're asking you kindly to simply log in and change your picture. Now, I notice that I see a number of names and not so much pictures. So what I am going to do right now, I am just going to ask for those of you who are on the system, let us change let's put up a profile picture for those of us who are here. So what you would do, you look for, we're going to test this. I'm not sure if you actually can do that, but let us test it. You're going to go to participants and you're going to look for your name. All right. So you're going to go to participants and you're going to look for your name. Then when you see your name, and it doesn't matter if you're using the desktop or the mobile. With the mobile, you would have to do a little bit of swiping to get to the section where you are, but it is essentially the same set of steps. So when you see your name, you would see that little, well, if you move the cursor, you will see something that says more. All right. If you click on more, you will see edit profile picture. So just tell me if you see edit profile picture. You can just open the mic for a minute and tell me if you see edit profile picture. For those of us who are,
the option more.
You're not seeing the option. All right. So you remember when you just see your name. You just see your name where you can rename. All right. So you remember where I was looking just now and I was saying that in the settings section, you could do all of that. Well, apparently the persons who set up this meeting, what they did was that they had deselected that option. So you wouldn't be able to change your profile. However, if you were to have that enabled and you were going to change your put up a profile picture, you would go here. So you'd go to the participants list, you would look for your name, you would click on edit profile picture. And when you click on edit profile picture, you will get a little window that says change picture. All right. So I'm just going to change my picture so you can actually see that this works. So I have my color picture up now. So I click on change picture. It will take me to a point where I will look for a picture. When I find something that I'm happy with, it allows me to drag, just as how I was doing it on the web-based aspect, and then I click save. When I click save, it changes to the picture that I have selected. So for those of you who, let me just turn off my camera. Right now, you should see an avatar, a little cartoon looking picture of me because I just changed my profile picture. All right. So that is how you would say change your picture. And it is good, especially here in Jamaica, where you know that we have internet issues, where if you have a photograph of the student, it helps you to identify a face with the name. All right. Now, you would have also heard that when you log in, you should ensure that you use your full name. It is a practice that is good, especially for those of us who are logging in from browsers and those of us who are logging in on mobile phones. You really don't want to see something that says Galaxy 73984 for a user. So we encourage persons to change their name, and that is where you would go. You would go up to the participants list. You would click on your name. You'd see more, and then you'd see rename, and then you would change your name. So I am just going to I'm just going to leave it at Michelle Stewart. And when I click OK, it would change. All right. And as you can see, the changes are immediate. So the minute you make the change, it shows up on your screen. All right. Now, the other thing is that as a presenter, there are other things that you need to just bear in mind. To close, you simply click the drop down and click on close, and it will open back the window up for you so that you have full access. Each time that you move your cursor away, you will realize that the icons disappear, and in order to get them back, you move the cursor up towards where it is. So it has a default where it doesn't have the zoom controls in your face all the time. So you simply move your cursor up or down to do so. All right. Now, as the presenter, as the host, there are a couple tricks and tips when you are presenting. All right. So you log in, you turn your camera on because you are going to be engaging your students or your participants, and your camera is on. But somehow the lighting isn't great, and there is a shadow behind you, and they're not seeing your face properly, and so forth. So you took the time out to make yourself look very presentable, but you're still not being seen clearly. And there are a few things that you can do to ensure that you have a better visual. So one of the things that the experts will tell you is that you should have the light in front of you. So you can sit in front of a window, in front of lights that is in front of you, or even ahead, but not so much behind you. So if you have lights behind you and you can't do anything about it, open your window that is in front of you, or turn on lights that are in front of you. Professionals tend to set up their lightings, but for us, we can just simply open the window, turn on the lights, and ensure that it's not behind you. All right, so that's one thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do to ensure that you have better lighting is to use the controls on your keyboard to make your lighting brighter. So you turn up the brightness on your computer. That also helps. It helps a lot. Okay. And the third thing that you can do is actually go to your video settings. All right. So to go to your video settings, at the bottom of your screen where you have your mute and your stop video, you will see a little it's a little arrow. So if you click on the arrow, you will see video settings, choose video filter, and choose virtual background. We are interested in the video settings. So for those of us who can actually do this, it would be good if you can follow along. So if you click on video settings, what you will see that will come up will
20% and just take our time.
So somebody has unmuted their mic, his or her mic, and I'm going to ask you, just remember, if you're not engaging in the session, keep the mics off. The session is being streamed, so we don't want to have that kind of distraction. So always remember to double check to make sure that your mic is muted. All right. So where was I? So we clicked on video settings. Now, when you click on video settings, you will see some information about the type of camera that you have. And then you will see a section that talks about my video. And there is a third option. So there are three things on the my video: mirror my video, touch up my appearance, and we're going to look at touch up my appearance in a while, and adjust for low light. That is what we're interested in right now. So if you click on adjust for low light, I'm just going to click off. I don't know if you notice a difference. Did anybody notice anything? I'm going to click it on again.
Yes.
Right. So if you click on adjust for low light, what the computer does is that if you're in low light, it automatically makes the background a little brighter for you. It makes your the section where you're being seen a little brighter. So you can go into your video settings and adjust for low light. Now, by auto, it automatically does the adjustment, but then you also have manual. And with manual, you can go in and then you can adjust the brightness to as bright as you want. But you don't want it to be, I look like an angel. Oh. So in manual, you want to ensure that it's not too bright. I was happy with what the auto looks like, so I will leave it at that. So that is another way that you can ensure that you are seen, that the visibility is better, and that people don't have to strain to see who you are. All right. Now, before we come out of the video settings, there is the touch up my appearance. Now, if you click on the touch up my appearance, what it does is that I'm just going to show you is that if you move it, it smooths out your face. Oh my goodness, look at that. So the touch up my appearance allows you to enhance your feature for the presentation. So this is one of the things that Zoom has that is used, all right? And of course, since we're still here, you can change your background if your computer works with virtual backgrounds. Now, this computer doesn't allow me to use virtual background, and I certainly don't have a green screen. If you have if it allows you to use the virtual background, so it actually allows me to select. So I'm going to select a background, but what you realize is that I am zooming in and out. It has, I am merged in with the picture, and it doesn't matter which one I change it to. It will be like that because I do not have a green screen that would remove that. So if you don't have a green screen and your computer cannot manage the background, don't worry about it. Don't use it, because it is better that you have your home background set up like that, or if you can create some people have like a board, a poster board set up behind them. If you can do something like that, it works. And it works much better than having something that looks like this. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. What Zoom has introduced recently is something that's called video filters, and you'll find them on the same section. Now, if you are interested in video filters, again, it depends on the purpose of your session. If it's a professional session or a business session, you don't want to be using filters. Filters as if you're having, informal meetings and so forth. So with the filters, it doesn't really change the background. So you don't have to worry about a virtual background. What it does, it makes adjustments. So I don't know if you notice that the color keep changing because I'm clicking on different video filter options. But apart from that, I can also change some of the settings. So you may realize that right now, my setting looks like a video camera recording, which has some details in different places. So you have different things that you can fool around with. Okay, there I am on TV. So you have these settings, but you would not use these for professional purposes at all. You would leave these for informal sessions. So that is just showing you as host that you can also adjust your lighting so that it looks a little bit better and you can be seen clearer. Now, as I said before, I don't have the green screen technology, and so the virtual background does not work very well for me. What I tend to do is, because I have to turn my camera on, what I do is that I ensure that I sort of set up my background behind so that it doesn't look too distracting. All right. Because sometimes when you show your background, people just want to look at what it is you have there. So people are there going, oh, is who that person there? So, oh, that must be our daughter there, so, and so forth. So if you can set up something that you have a plain wall, just a solid wall behind you, white or light colored. Yes, Zoom really has stepped it up. You can use that, and that has less distractions. All right. If not, you ensure that you are not too close to the wall so that the details aren't very clear, and that it is neat, it is tidy, and that you focus on the message at hand. Now, if you find for whatever reason that your background is distracting because people are really not looking at you, they're looking past you, you simply apologize for the background, as I did earlier, and turn your camera off. All right. So if you don't need to have your camera off, you simply apologize for not having a virtual background or not having a plain background, and you turn it off. If people say, oh, it's okay, you can leave it, it's not bothering us, that's fine, you leave it, because there is the human face and the body language that interacts, all right, and sends so many different messages. So you can make a decision, but again, it depends on the purpose of the session. I would never, ever, 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 ever be in my living room and turn up for an academic board meeting. All right. I keep my camera off, or I ensure that I clear away a section. So there's a section that I use sometimes when I'm working, but the lighting is poor there. So I tend to use that, and it has a plain background behind me so I can turn my camera on and engage. Okay. So that has to do with your background and your lighting. Now, when it comes to recording the session, you will see the little button at the bottom which says record. Now, in our case, we are streaming live, and that is one of the things that would have been done, set up in when you went into settings on the web-based aspect. All right. So when you click record, it will give you two options. It will ask you if you want to record if you want to save it on the computer or to the cloud. You make the decision. So you will have to think about the size hard drive that you have, whether or not you can take a video, a series of videos or a video. And then you also think about the package that you have, whether or not it is better for you to upload to the cloud. What I can tell you is that if you save onto your computer, and even if you delete it from your computer, when you go on the web-based application, on the local recordings, it will show you the list of all the videos that you can still open. All right. So that is for your record. When you are meeting with your participants, don't assume that everybody is a Zoom expert, or that everybody, because they've been using it for all this time, they know where what is. So you do a quick run through to remind them that, okay, this is what will happen. You can use the chat to access the chat. This is what you will see it at the bottom. And you don't have to go through telling people how to use the chat. Just about everybody knows how to type a message. What you should do is remind them that if they have a private message, they should use the drop down under the participants list to look for that person's name so that you can send them a message directly. That is if it is activated and enabled when you set up your meeting, when you are scheduling your meeting. And then, of course, you would give them certain guidelines to say things like that. Remember, be respectful, don't shout, don't use shorthand language, depending on what it is that your meeting is about. So much of what you do when you're in Zoom will be dependent on the purpose of your Zoom session. Okay? And then you want to talk about the reactions. So if it is enabled, you will find it easily. So to the bottom of your screen, you will see participants and chat and so forth. And then you will see reactions. All right. Now, if you click the reaction, And again, remember, don't assume everybody knows where your what is. Just do a reminder. For those who didn't know before, they will get a hang of it. For those who knew, it's a reminder. So you simply tell them that if they want to use a raise hand feature, if they want to be acknowledged, they use a raise hand feature. So for those of us who are in Zoom, could you kindly raise your hands for me, please? So at the bottom of your screen, you should see a reaction. All right, so there we go. The hands are coming up. Beautiful. And then if you have enabled the more options, beautiful, beautiful. And when you raise your hand or wave or give a thumbs up, it lasts for about 3 minutes. So this is what you're going to do for me now. You're going to do you're going to change it to a thumbs up or an image of joy. Just change it to any other image that you want, please. Okay, and these are usually non-verbal cues. So if you're having a session and you don't necessarily want the students or the participants to keep opening the mics and talking, you can simply encourage them to use the non-verbal cues. So this is where I say, am I going too fast? If I'm going too fast, give me a no or give me a yes. So this is me asking you the question. Am I going too fast for you? Please use the non-verbal cues to let me know. So Desmond tells me no, and Dion says no. So these are very useful for your session when you're presenting or you're hosting, because, and then of course you can type in the chat. Thank you very much, Alicia, Alette. So you can use the non-verbal cues to just simply indicate something that doesn't require a lot of talking. Now, one of the things that you need to bear in mind is that if you're going to use a chat and the nonverbal cues, you have to use them at different points, because the chat requires it pops up and it disappears. So it may require you to go into the chat session to see what is going on. If you ask them to indicate using any of the emoticons, the nonverbal cues, it shows up on each person's profile. So that's two things different. One, looking down to read or opening the chat section to read, or just simply looking on the screen at the hands that are up. All right. So these are things that you can that you have at your right at your fingertips that you can make use of. The chat is there. So there, of course, you have your video, you have your audio, and then you have your chat features. Each serve a particular purpose. So if you have students doing presentations and so forth, you want to encourage them, turn on the camera. It's not going to be for very long. Turn your camera on. And then, of course, there is the audio. Turn your mics on, talk, turn your mic off. If you're using the chat, it becomes a little bit harder for you to follow the chat, because the chat isn't set up in a sequential manner. It's not set up in a chronological manner. So you may be responding to something that I said before, but you cannot use the threading aspect. So I won't know that this comment that you have made is in response to something that was said 5 minutes ago. So you have to think about how you use the chat when you're using the chat. Okay. All right. So that is for your reaction, and it is 5:30. I have some time. When you're sharing your screen, so this is where I'm going to have to talk a little slower. When you're sharing your screen, you can share your screen, and you can share your screen to share. Well, it's called share screen, but you can share documents, you can share web pages, you can share a PowerPoint presentation, you can share just about anything. If it is enabled where more than one person can share at a time, what will happen is that if I am sharing and you are going to share, it will stop sharing my screen and your screen will be shared. If you want to have a sort of control in your video conferencing session, you will then have to think about whether or not you're going to enable all participants to share or only one participant to share at a time, which means that I have to stop sharing and you wait before you have access to share. Okay. Again, it depends on the purpose of what it is you're doing. You don't want to just simply say, okay, fine, I'll leave it open. It depends on what it is you're doing. So every time you're going to be setting up a meeting, you have to think about all of these things. What is the purpose of this video conferencing session? Is it for class? Is it a small tutorial? Is it that the students are going to be sharing? Will my participants be coming in and sharing? Is it that I want to have full control of this because it's more like a seminar session and therefore I don't necessarily want them to be sharing screens? You have to think about all these things when you're setting up your meeting or your video conferencing session. But when you're going to share your screen, there are three tabs when you click on share screens that tend to come up. All right. So by default, you have the screen. What the screen does is that it allows you, if you have several tabs open or several files, you can jump easily from file to file. And what happens in a case like that, you see what is happening. So in my case, let me just click share. You would see, I'm going to close this, the PowerPoint. Just let me escape. So if I wanted, you would see everything that is on my screen and you would see the different places that I would jump to and for. All right. So all of this is there when I share my screen like that. If I didn't want you to see that and I simply want you to focus on, let's say, the PowerPoint, I would click on the PowerPoint when I go. So I would not select screen. I would select the PowerPoint, which is what I would have open, or any other tab or document or file. You would get a preview of them. So I click on that. So right now, you should be seeing only my PowerPoint. Are you seeing my PowerPoint? Use the thumbs up and indicate for me, please. All right. So you're seeing my PowerPoint. Now I am just going to switch across. Are you seeing the web page that I just opened? Right. So you should not be able to see because what I did when I shared just now, I simply selected the tab that I wanted you to see, which was the PowerPoint. So when you're sharing your screen, this is something you need to think of. Do you have several files that you want to move easily between? If that is the case, you share your screen. That is the default. But remember that when you select screen, what is going to happen is that your participants, your viewers are going to be seeing when you move from tab to tab. So if you think that you're multitasking and somebody else is there and you're going to your email, they're going to see that you're going to your email and that sort of thing. So you need to be mindful of the type of share that you select and the activities that you do when you are sharing. Okay? So by default, you have screen and then whatever tabs it is you want to share, you can open that and share just that. Okay. You have another button called advanced. Now, if you click on advanced, you will realize that you can share a part of your screen. So you don't have to share the entire screen as I've been doing. And one of the things that Zoom has done now, which is really cool, and I cannot show you on this computer, is that they now allow you to use the PowerPoint that you're sharing as your virtual background. And you don't have to worry about having a green screen to do that. So what happens when you do that is that it uses the PowerPoint presentation as your backdrop. And then your image is a small image to the bottom right, which you can resize, but you simply click to move through the presentation while your image is superimposed on it, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know if there are other video conferencing tools that do that, but I know that Zoom had the beta version out some time ago and now it is released and it is something worth checking out. When you're setting up, you can check it out. So that you will find under the advanced tab when you click on share. Okay. You can also share music from your computer or otherwise only. So you don't want to share anything else, just the music, you go to the advanced tab. And you can share a video, or if you also have live classes, so for people who do live sessions, there is the option for you to do your live session sharing. All right. And if you click on files, you have the option. So let us say that because we're using cloud storage more and more. if you had your files in, say, Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive, Box or Microsoft SharePoint, you can simply click on the third window, which is the files section, and then you can click on Dropbox or Drive, and it will take you there where you will look for the file that you want to share. All right. So those are the options that you have. Most of us tend to know only about the first one. So when we click on share screen, the first screen that comes up is the one that has screen and whatever tabs that you have open. And what you don't realize is that you actually have other things that you can share using the advanced and the files windows. Now, if you're going to be sharing a presentation that has sound or has video, one of the things that you need to bear in mind as a presenter or as a host is that you select the section that says share sound and optimize for video. So share sound will allow any file that has a sound that when you're playing, it will play. So sometimes, you say, okay, guys, I want to share a video with you, and you turn the video on and the students or the participants say, we're not hearing anything. That is because you need to ensure that you select the share sound. So when you click on share, at the bottom to the left, you'll see two bits of information with two check boxes. One that says share sound and one that says optimize video clip. Now, optimize video clip, simply different videos come in different sizes and different qualities, and depending on the browser that the software, the operating system that you're using, the video may be choppy and that sort of thing. When you select optimize for video, what it does is that it tries to ensure that it plays the best quality or the best version of the video for you. So this is something that you need to think about as well. If you're hosting and you are sharing a video, sharing a PowerPoint that has sound, you need to ensure that you select those. If whatever it is you're sharing doesn't have any of those things, you don't have to worry about it. All right. And then, of course, when you want to stop sharing, you click on stop sharing and your picture will come up, or the video, or whatever it is that you have opened. Wow, that has been a mouthful. So I am taking a break right now. I don't know if there are any comments or if there are any queries that has to do with the hosting and presenting aspect and what you can bear in mind. One more thing before I do that though, you may notice that sometimes you have presenters, and let me do this for you, and they are looking down into the camera like that, okay? And they're looking down into the camera. And then you have some persons where you see this part or you just see the head, all right? One of the things that the experts will tell you is that you should ensure as much as possible that you are on, this is what my bust level with your laptop. Persons who are using their phones tend to hold the phone up. Most persons tend to hold it down. One of the good things to do is to just hold it up in front of you so that you have a face front shot of you. Now, if you're using a computer and the computer is down, because by default, we tend to have the computer down to work on it. What we are encouraged to do is to use a little stand, or to get, two thick books if you have two thick books. If you use paper, I use two reams of paper sometimes, and you just stack those and put your computer on it if you're using a laptop. That brings you in better alignment in terms of where you are and getting that image. That makes it look as if you are on lined up with what's going on here. Let me fix that. So sorry about that. That allows you to be better aligned. And then the other thing that we are told, which I find very tiring, is that in order to ensure that eye contact, you should be looking in the camera. Now, when you look in the camera, what happens is that it gives the impression that you're looking straight in the face of the person, but it also makes it hard for you to see the persons who you're supposed to be talking to. All right. So you will have to decide, am I going to be looking in the camera all the time, or am I also going to be looking at the different persons who are there and looking on the screen so that I can engage with my participants? So you can say to them, all right, guys, I am supposed to be looking at that, but you don't have to be looking at them. It's unnatural. It's very unnatural to be just staring into the screen, into the camera. Besides, if you keep staring at that light, eventually you're going to have little lights in your eyes. So what you can do is every now and again you look up. Just as how when you are talking to somebody face to face, you don't stare in their face 24/7. You look up, you look away, you nod, you look down, you do that sort of thing. You do the same thing. Make it as natural as possible. So you look up every now and again to ensure that you can connect, if that is what it is. And then you look down onto the screen so that you can see the faces, see the responses, see the reactions of your participants. Keep it real, okay? So yes, so I'm pausing here so that if there were any questions, you can ask before we go into the final section of the guidelines, the netiquette, the things that we need to bear in mind. So if you have any questions, I think we can probably field them now. If you don't have any questions, so this is where Ms. Garrix and Mr. Croker, you can check the YouTube feed if there are any comments or questions there, and you can also, I'll actually take a quick look here.
All right, well, over on YouTube, I just checked in and they are busy following along and trying to do as you are demonstrating.
Wonderful.
So there are no questions at the point yet.
Okay, I noticed that Jacqueline Ensel has her hand up. So Jacqueline, you may go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. What I need to
I'm going to stop you a little bit. I'm going to stop you a little bit, Jacqueline.
For the touch-up that you had mentioned with the
I'm going to turn that
facial features.
All right, so Jacqueline, I'm going to stop you a little bit. Your video, your audio is very, very bad, and I suspect that it may be the internet. So I'm going to ask you if you could please type what it is you want to say in
the chat.
Yes. And the other person whose mic is open, could you mute it, please? So Jacqueline Nelson, could you please type in the chat? I'll hop over to look. And so this happens sometimes. It is something that we have to live with. The reality is that our internet fails us from time to time, and it doesn't keep up at all times. If something like this happens and you're the presenter, you can stop the person and say, could you do that in the chat? Or you can say, just log out, log in again. Or you can say, if the video is on, because the video tends to also affect the internet that way, ask them to turn the video camera off as well. All right. So I'm waiting on Jacqueline to write her question. I don't know if there are any other questions. Oh, I don't even know if Jacqueline is still in the room. Oh, so Jacqueline wants to know, can I do the facial touch-up before the presentation or do it? You can do it before. So I think you're talking about that section, that section in the video settings that say touch up my appearance. If that is what you're talking about, you can go in and set it before you come into the meeting, because you would, if you have the Zoom installed on your computer, then one of the things that you can do is you can simply go into your Zoom settings before the meeting starts and set it to touch up your just to touch up your appearance. And for females more than males, this is something that is interesting, and it's something that, because, well, I think generally speaking, we have a larger number of females. Zoom thought that this was something worth putting in. So one of the other things that I just want to show you, let me just jump back over. When you go into your video settings, one of the new things that they have put in is something that's called studio effects. And one of the things about studio effects, and I'd like you to look at the screen very closely. Now, this is for fun more than it is for anything else. So if you go into after you've done your touch up and you look very nice, you have under the video filters, there's something that's called studio effects. It's still in the beta version, but it works. So it has eyebrows, mustache, and lip color. All right. And if you wanted to add to your eyebrows, so if you look, you may notice that my eyebrows just changed a little bit. And if I move, it moves with me. So I can have a thin line there, or I can have something that's thicker. So it's a studio effect that you can put in, and you can change the color of the eyebrows. So I just changed the color. So for people who want to test that kind of thing, you can test it. And then of course, mustache and beard would be for men. But you see, I just put a little thing on there. If I were to, and there I have a little stubble. So that's for men if you wanted to do that. And then again, if you're having an informal session, you can fool around with it. And then it has lip color. So I can change my lip color. So if you notice that, I've changed the color of my lips without going to apply lipstick. And so I now have thick eyebrows and red lipstick that you have in this studio version. If you don't want any of these things, and I don't, I would simply go back and select none for all so that I can look. I am happy with just a little bit of touching up my appearance that's there. All right. So that is something else. As the presenter, you have at your fingertips that you can use and fool around with. And again, it is trying to reach out to as many persons as possible so that you can use the filters, you can use the effects. And even if it's a professional meeting, just now you realize that I could have added a little eyebrow to my eyebrows and, touch up my face a little bit to make me look more professional for the camera. So that is something worth looking at. Okay. Now I'm seeing in the chat something here that says YouTube. Is there a way to keep track of everyone that entered Zoom meeting at the end of the session other than saving the chat with their names? Yes. So when you are finished, what happened is that in the setting on the web, so when we started out, I did say that you have some features in the web-based version that you don't have on the desktop. So it is in the web-based version when you go back into recordings and meetings. In fact, let me just hop on over there for you. And let me see if I remember where I go to get the details. Okay, so my mind is failing me, but it is when you go back to the web, there is a section for you to click on the meetings, and then, oh, I'm not showing my screen. Give me a second. Let me find it first. So for previous meetings, I don't remember where I go. All right, so this is something that I will double check, but I do know that there is a list of all participants, so you don't have to use the chat at all. You can just hop on over to the web-based version, and then you go to I know that you go to meetings because this has to do with the meeting. You look for the particular meeting, and then it has, you can download an Excel sheet or a document, a text file of all the persons who came in, the time they logged in, how long they stayed, when they logged out, how, if they're logged in again, that kind of information is there. And that is very useful for you as a presenter or a host, because it allows you to keep track of exactly how many persons were there, how long they stayed for, and in exam purposes, because I'm an academic, in exam purposes, if a student said, Miss, I got kicked out before, or what have you, you can look to see how long the student was in before the student logged in again. So that kind of information is very useful. And if you're doing like basic research, the analytics are great because you have the exact the duration, how often, how long people, and you can speak to things like internet stability and so forth, because if somebody keeps logging in, it means that something clearly went wrong and so forth. So that kind of information is there. I will have to do a detailed check, but I do know that it exists. And no, you don't have to download the chat every time to just get the names. Besides, sometimes you have persons who come to the sessions who never use the chat at all, and it means that they would not have been captured. All right. Yes. So there's a question: is there a set amount of participants that Zoom allows? And how does the host choose the amount of persons that can join? It depends on the kind of package that you have. All right. So you have the free package, which allows you to have unlimited meetings for 2 persons. If you have more than 2 persons, so you can have up to 100 persons, but it's only for 40 minutes. Okay, so that's the free version. Then you have the paid version, and the paid version comes in tiers. So you have what I have a paid version that gives me all these perks, but I only can have 100 persons. Okay, and then there is another version that allows 300 as the cap. And then there is what they call the institutional tier, which allows you to have much larger groups. And of course, in keeping with the type of package that you have, there is that associated cost. So it is not you who decide how many persons, it's the kind of package that you have. Now, once you reach that limit, nobody else will be able to come in unless somebody logs out. Okay, so if in my case I have the paid version that allows me to have 100 participants, if I reach 100 participants, that's it. The only way somebody else can join is if somebody got knocked off or somebody left, then it creates a space which will be there until the 100 cap is met. And the same goes for those who have the 300 cap, and then of course the institutional tier, which has up to that. And then of course Zoom has special packages, I know. So if you say that this is the kind of company that I have, and I have these sessions that tend to have this number of persons, you work out something with them and they give you a special package. Okay, and then Cheryl has pointed out that it also has additional features that you pay for. Yes. All right. Okay, so that has to do with the presenting, hosting aspect. So far we have looked at the different types of platform, the popular platforms, and we are reminded that we have things that, well, we have the Blackboard Collaborate, but then you have Zoom and you have Skype Meeting. And please note, Skype Meeting is different from Skype because the Skype Meeting is closer aligned to the professional web conferencing platforms like Zoom and WebEx and so forth. So we have WebEx, we have GoToMeeting, we have Teams, we have Google Meet, which is different from Google Hangout. Okay, so Google Meet is the web conferencing souped up version. And we have Teams, and of course we have Zoom. All right. Now, the last thing that we're going to go into is looking at certain basic guidelines that we need to bear in mind. So I am going to go back and share my PowerPoint, and I am sharing my PowerPoint, and I'm making sure that in this case, I select share sound and optimize for video, because I am going to be sharing a video before I continue. All right. So let me just go to share screen. And then I am going to select on screen. My share sound, optimize for video is on. And there I am on the slide that I want to be. All right. So, okay. So I am about to play a video. I found this video and I liked it. And I quickly asked, can I use this in a presentation? So I'm using this presentation which captures the essence of the etiquette very well. All right, it has sound. So I'm just the sounds aren't very clear, so they're not audio, they're not vocals for you to try and figure out, but it adds to the essence. All right, so I'm just going to turn my video off and I am going to allow you to watch, and then we'll discuss a little bit more. All right, here we go. All right, so yes, so it captures very, very well the basic elements of video conference etiquette. So I had asked permission from them system if it was okay for me to use this for my session, and they said go ahead. And so I just wanted to share it with you because it's light, but it speaks to such important points. So we're going to just go through a little bit with these. All right, so of course, if you are going to be in a session, whether you are a presenter, a host, or a participant, you should ensure that the area where you are, as much as is humanly possible, is a quiet area. So you don't have distractions. So if you have a little work area or you have a room that you go into, you do that. Also ensure that your space is free from clutter. So it's a tidy little area. It allows you to find your zen area, your moment, and make you better prepared for the session that you're going in. Okay. Now ensure that you check your camera. So you make sure that you what I always do before I do the checks whenever, because normally for presentations like these, we're asked to check in a little bit earlier. What I tend to do is I check before I do the check. So I tend to open my Zoom session and I make sure that my camera works. I test my audio. I ensure that I ask somebody to log in and find out if they can hear me. So I do that kind of check. If you are in a session that allows you to do that kind of check before the actual commencement of the formal aspect, as was done in this particular webinar, That is also a beautiful thing that you need to remember. Do those things. Ensure that your connection to the internet is good. Now, what do I mean by this? Here in Jamaica, we have people who log in using their mobile phones. If you're using your mobile phones and you have a prepaid plan, make sure you have enough credit and that you have a data plan that can last you for the session. If you're postpaid, make sure you pay the bill and that you are up to date so that you can have the session. If you are not using your mobile device and you're using your desktop or your laptop, ensure that the Wi-Fi that you have is stable Wi-Fi, but better than the Wi-Fi, if you have the network cable, that Ethernet cable that you can plug in from the modem into your desktop or into your laptop, that is even better. So these are ways of ensuring that you are prepared. And of course, make sure that your phone charge or you have your power bank nearby. Your power bank should also be charged and your laptop is charged, and well, your desktop would normally be charged because it is plugged in, but make sure that the device that you're going to be using is charged. Be early. Be early. Try not to, if you can't be early, try to be on time. It's one of the things that I tend to say to my participants. If you cannot be early, be on time. So you set your reminders, put it in your calendar, put it on your laptop, write it in your journal if you're the type of person who have a hard copy. So make sure that you are early, and if you can't be early, be on time, because for me there is nothing as distracting as late people joining the sessions. Well, that's not exactly true. If your mic is on, that's worse. But if you're joining late, it tends to show up on the screen, X is joining, and then you see that little wavy thing connecting to audio. And if you are hosting and you have a waiting room set up, it means that if you're also presenting, you have to be there keeping an eye on the waiting room and admitting people in, as well as trying to do your presentation. So where possible, people, please be early. And if you can't be early, be on time. Identify yourself, okay? So make sure that the name that you use is your name, all right? Not your mother's name, your little baby sister, certainly not your mama or Galaxy phone. So we went through earlier how to change your name. Well, we went through the steps and how to put up a picture of you. So for professionals purposes, very professional purposes, we ask that you identify yourself. And when you identify yourself, you use your name, your first name, and your surname. You don't have to give me your middle name. Michelle, Allison, Christine, Stephanie, Stewart, McCoy. You don't need to do all of that. Michelle, Stewart, McCoy, or Michelle McCoy works perfectly. But a first name and a surname helps. If it's an informal thing, your first name alone can work. But for school purposes, for academic purposes, for meetings, for webinars, for workshops, it's good if you have your first name and your surname. And if you can upload a picture, we ask that you put up an identifying image up as well, but not any bumper shots, not any back shots, not any shots where you turn sideways or anything like that. Try to let it be a face shot or your bust. Well, you realize that the image allows you to put mostly your face. So try to ensure that your facial and not just your lips or your eyes, your full face, because it is supposed to be an identifying action. So your name and a picture where possible. Okay. Now you did see we should try and avoid multitasking. For me, I am horrible at it. So sometimes I am somebody asks me a question and I'm still on the phone and I'm telling the person on the phone the other thing, or I'm typing and what I should not be typing in the chat is what I'm typing in the chat and so forth. So multitasking, no care how good we are at it, tends to let you lose a little edge. All right. So you're not as focused, you're not as alert. Besides, if it is a session in which you're being asked to present on something or you're being asked a question, if you are doing other things, you're not going to be able to give your 100% here. Besides, it's also disrespectful. All right. I know we have a million and one things to do. We have papers to mark and we have meetings to prepare for and we have workshops to set up and so forth. We have so many things to do. But the truth of the matter is, if we're here for a meeting, if we're here for a session, we should lock that time away and ensure that we at least give the person who is there to present or who's sharing information that much. That person put time and effort into getting the presentation together, and the least you can do is listen. All right, be respectful, listen, be focused. All right. Besides, if you were going to a face-to-face session, it is a bit harder for you to stay in there and make your phone call. Well, not that it's impossible, it's harder, but it's something that we really shouldn't do, because if you have a session for an hour, 2 hour, book, ensure that you lock that 2 hours out so that you know that that is what you're going to be doing. All right. So avoid multitasking. Mute your mic. Do I need to say anything more? Just mute your mics, please. It will reduce any distracting noise, any embarrassing noises on your end. So once you are not talking, once you're not talking to the presenter or making a point be known or heard, please turn your mics off. All right. And when you're going to speak, remember to unmute yourself. One of the things that you can do, which is a pretty neat hack in Zoom, is that all you need to do if your mic is off, you just press the space bar and it will allow you, it will open your mic temporarily, you talk, and then you let go the space bar again and you're muted. So that is something that you can use. Okay? Be properly attired. No. I know that with the advent of the video conferencing sessions, where you don't have to get up and dress up and come out of the house to attend a face-to-face meeting, it is so easy for us to just roll out of bed and into the meeting. And there's nothing wrong with rolling out of bed and into the meeting. What I find, however, and the experts will tell you, is that you need to be in that frame of mind, that particular frame for work, for meeting, for a workshop, for a seminar, and so forth. So even if your camera isn't on and you don't know, you may be asked to turn your camera on for whatever reason. One of the things that you should try to do is ensure that you look presentable, especially your top half, the part that is going to be seen by the camera. So ensure that you comb your hair. All right, don't just get up and run your finger through it and whatever. You comb your hair the same way you would comb your hair if you were going out into the physical space. Wash your face, brush your teeth, make sure no food not hitch up in there, because if you have to turn the camera on and smile, you're going to realize that, all right. So ensure that you do these things. Go through your normal routine of preparing in the mornings, all right, and then you ensure that you put on some presentable item of clothing. So even if you're going to be wearing shorts or your PJs and as your lower half, ensure that your top half, the part that the camera sees, is presentable. And make sure that you turn your camera off. If you turned it on, make sure you turn it off before you get up, okay? Because that would be embarrassment. So ensure, in fact, you know what? To ensure that no embarrassment occurs whatsoever, put on something decent top and bottom, all right? So ensure that you are properly attired and that you are ready. Try to be casually elegant. All right. So I'm not saying you're supposed to put on a 3-piece suit with tie and vest and go get gold material and satin to put on, but ensure that you're elegantly clothed so that if your camera accidentally turns on, or if you're asked to turn your camera on, you are presentable. And use the video conferencing features and use it judiciously. So some people come and they use the emoticon left, right, and center, and you're sick and tired of it. So set basic ground rules. So say, okay, guys, these are the basic rules. Remember, you raise your hand, don't just turn your mic on and open it, wait until you're acknowledged, and then you guide them as well. So if you want people to be using the nonverbal cues at a particular point, you simply say to them, all right, use the raise hand feature, use the thumbs up, use the heart if you like this. If you want me to go slower, click on slower and I'll slow this down. So, but it also means that you have to familiarize yourself with this so that you can use it and you know where to direct them. Try not to assume that everybody's at the same place where you are. So if you have to do a little bit of research, do a little bit of research so that you can ensure that you know enough. And if you don't know, say that I don't know, guys. This is something that I definitely will need to double check. All right. And I think that was the last of it. Yes, that was the last of it there. So those are some of the things that we need to bear in mind when we, of course, there are many, many more. So the list that I just gave you is not at all exhaustive. If you think about it, think about our context. There are so many other things that there you go, eating on the camera. And then there are some persons who, because they're operating at home, they don't realize that, other persons in the home don't realize that the camera is on. So they're doing their own business while you're in a session. So one of the things that you can do if you're presenting, or even if you're a participant, is simply say, hey mom, hey dad, hey guys, I am going into a session now. My camera is going to be on for a little bit, or I need to be talking at different points. So I'm just going to ask you to hold it down a little bit until I'm finished here. If you have headsets or earphones, you can use that. It does help in managing the distraction a little bit. So you can also bear that in mind. And as I said, I am sure there are many things that I have not mentioned, but we have been using platforms and we have been learning as we go along. And therefore, if you can, at the beginning of every session, just set up your rules. Just set up your ground rules and said, okay, guys, welcome. Glad you're here. There are a couple of things that I needed to remember as we go through. And you just talk them through. And if you need at any point to do your reminders, you do your reminders. For sessions that are lengthy, we need to remember that because we are now constantly in front of an electronic device, we have to think about the health aspect. Okay, so we need to remember that the eyes are tired. There is something that's called auditory fatigue. There is something that's called digital burnout, and they have all kind of terms. They have Zoom burnout, and I hear the expression zombies. So this is real. It is something where you have meetings and you have sessions and everything is now online and there isn't a break. So one of the things that you need to remember and try to be mindful about is that people are now constantly on this electronic device. So there is a need to encourage movement. So if you have a long session, a 2-hour session, you can give a 5-minute break, a 10-minute break, and encourage people to get up, walk, stretch, go get some water, close your eyes for a little bit, just take a break. And every now and again, you can just tell them, all right, you can turn your camera off now that you're on, because it also impacts the quality of the connection. So if people turn their cameras off, you can actually have a better session. So you can say to people, you don't have to have the camera on for the entire session. You can turn it off. Just ensure that if you're going to be explaining anything, you turn your camera on so that we can associate the face with the name. But apart from that, that body language says it all. So people shrug, people smile. I know that when people smile and they're talking, you hear it in the voice. But then when you see it there's that connection. And this is one of the differences with face-to-face and virtual, because there's that kind of connection in a face-to-face session. And therefore, you have researchers who tell you, encourage people to turn their cameras on so you can connect this sort of way. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, that is it from me. What have I done today? I have taken you through a couple of common platforms that are used for meetings, for class sessions. We need to remember that you can use them for small sessions or for large sessions, and that you have a number at your disposal. And what we also need to remember is that whereas there may be small variations in the different features, just about all video conferencing platforms carry the same kind of thing. So if you have persons who are hearing challenged, you have your closed caption that can go on. you have your annotation where you can make your notes. You have your different features. You have your video that you can show. You have your documents that you can share. You have links that you can share in the chat. So you'll realize that all of these different platforms share a common set of features. All right. And then, so we looked at a couple of them. The other thing we did, we looked at if we were setting up a session, how would we do this on the website? Now, of course, for you to do this, you must have an account, okay? So ensure that you have an account so that you can go and do this. You can log into a session without having an account, but in order for you to set up a meeting, you must have an account and you must be able, there are some things that you can only do on the web-based. When it comes onto the desktop now, you have the option of actually going in and creating your meeting right there on your desktop without having to log into the web base. And you'll realize that there are just about the same set of characteristics and features on the desktop on your mobile phone as you do on the web base. It's just that for web based, you have so many more features. All right. Remember that when you go on the web based, you need to pay attention to the meetings section where you set up your meeting, the recording section, and also the settings section. The settings is very important because this is where you'll enable your waiting room. If you're using waiting room, you'll decide whether or not you're going to mute the participants. You decide how sharing will be done. You'll decide whether or not they can change their pictures and update their information right there in the meeting. We also looked at things like ensuring that you are not looking down or up into the camera. So we looked at a little hack where you can just stack a couple books or use a little box to ensure that your camera is up. You can use virtual backgrounds. And if you can't use virtual background, you ensure that your space is set up in a nice little way so that it's not too distracting. And if you need to turn it off, you just turn it on, talk, welcome, and then say, I will have to turn the camera off for whatever reason. Okay. And then we looked at the video aspects, adjusting the lighting, and then we looked at some other features where we learn about how we can touch up our appearance and adjust our lighting to ensure that we are seeing better. So we are reminded that it's the front lighting that is important. So you can have lighting from above and in front of you and even to the sides. It is the light that comes from behind you that tends to cast a shadow and makes it very hard for you to be seen. And it also makes it distracting and people tune out after a while because they can't see your face and they don't want to hear you. So adjust the lighting and you should be good. And then we looked at basic netiquette things, little rules that we need to remember. And some of them are general and we practice all the while. Things like spell out the thing properly if you're in a formal. Don't put CULRTR into a professional setting. Write it out. Thank you, and I will see you later. And the whole caps lock thing, try not to use caps lock because it gives the impression that you're shouting and you're perpetually angry and that sort of things. So those we didn't talk about because these are common, but those that are particular to the session, we looked at that as well. And I have spoken and I am all talked out. So this is where if you have any other questions, I will listen, or if you have any comments. I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay. Thank you very much for that wonderful and detailed step-by-step introduction to web-based presentations. I was able to learn some things from this session, and I'm seeing in the chat here on Zoom where persons are also indicating that they enjoyed the session, awesome presentation. All right, and I'm sure that persons that would have been on this session is now better equipped now to use whatever platform they're using. We talked a lot about Zoom and in this session, but as you mentioned, the other platforms, the setup is similar to that on Zoom. And it's now for us to go there and do our experimentation and learn about how we can apply this knowledge in our delivery whenever we have to. So let's now open the floor for questions. Are there any questions that for Michelle this afternoon?
I just want to say that I shared in the Zoom session a summary of the video conferencing etiquette. I did not get a chance to finish the hosting guidelines. When I do that, I will send that to Cheryl so she can disseminate. For those who are in the Zoom session, you can simply download that PDF file. And for those who are on the YouTube, who joined via YouTube, I suppose that will be sorted out by the units.
Okay, okay. Are there any questions? Well, I'm seeing here in the chat lots of kudos to you, Michelle. Persons are expressing how thankful they are and how happy they are for this session. I find that it was very straightforward and easy to follow. Right, we are getting those same comments coming in. They continue to come in. Excellent presentation. Very interesting and informative. Wonderful and relevant. Thank you so much. All right. Somebody saying not hearing. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are, Desmond.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. So once again, I want to say thank you very much to Mrs. Michelle Stewart Mccoy for such a wonderful and detailed presentation on web-based presentations. As I said before, I'm sure that persons that would have been on this call are now better equipped to deal with the some of these challenges that we have encountered since the advent of the coronavirus and us having to transfer to this online medium. I'm sure we can now use the information that we get here to go on to whatever platform we use and do our experiments, do our things so that it will help to make the presentation, the interaction much better for us. So thank you very much, Michelle, for that. And I trust that as you continue with your work, you will continue to touch hearts and persons who you come in contact with.
Thank you very much. Just before you go, I realized that there is a question. So there is a question in the chat. So I'm so sorry about this. I know that we just wrapped up, but the question popped up. So if you don't mind, I'll answer.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
The question is, what are my thoughts on mandatory video on guidelines for students attending virtual classes? And what I would say, the politically correct response would be, it depends. So we know that we don't live in a country that has the ideal where internet connectivity is concerned. And we also know that we live in a system where in order for us to be connected nonstop on the internet, it means that we are talking about data plans or talking about exorbitant amount of monies in order to to get data put onto prepaid plans and so forth. So it really depends on what it is you want to get. What I would advocate for is not necessarily a mandatory video on guidelines which dictates that the videos must be on forever. What I would do is set up a set of guidelines and establish these as policies or official documents that students are guided by, that they know that they may be called on to turn their cameras on. I think one of the things that we get away with, myself included, is that because we realize that we don't have to turn on the camera because we have internet issues and it's dragging and we don't have enough credit and so forth, we tend not to be as prepared for anything. So there are days that we have people who just remain in bed and just log into the phone and lie down in the bed on their back and doing their things. Now, I am thinking that if you were going to a physical session, you would have to make an effort to get up, get ready, and be prepared to be called on. And therefore, I would set up certain guidelines that speak to not just the video on aspect, but also the whole mindset and preparation, and point out that these are now the official aspect of ensuring that you are more prepared, more focused as students who are here to learn certain lifelong lessons. And this is one of them. Yes, you are at home, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in bed, pillow over your head, and you simply just log in to hear what is going on, and that is it. So I would, yes, advocate for guidelines, but the video on is within a particular context. So it is something that says where we understand that this is the reality, and whereas you will not be necessarily be asked to keep your cameras on, be prepared to turn your cameras on to respond to questions that are longer than yes, no, to explain, to elaborate, to present, that sort of thing. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that as well. Okay, at this time we want to remind you that our next session, our last session in this series, is on Wednesday, and the topic is on wealth management. Wealth management. Again, another very interesting topic for us as nurses. You know, we tend to focus a lot on patient care and these kinds of things, and lose track of the fact that as nurses, we can be so much. We can be entrepreneurs. We can be managers, and so we want to ensure that we log in on Wednesday to get that presentation on wealth management. So at this time, I will now hand you back over to our president, Cheryl Garrix-Lloyd, who will take over from here.
Thank you so much, Desmond, for a wonderful evening. Thank you very much, Mrs. Stewart McCoy. Let me just, before I close off, just read for you a couple of the comments over on YouTube. Very helpful tips, excellent presentation, great teacher, very informative, thoroughly enjoyed this session. It was very enlightening. Excellent presentation. I totally enjoyed this session. Good presentation and quite fitting. Very engaging. I learned so much and very relevant in this technological era. So those were some of the comments from over on YouTube. They didn't have questions. They were able to follow along quite efficiently with you. They were also practicing, and so they have walked away with lots of information for today. So thank you, Mrs. Stewart McCoy. Thank you to everyone who has been participating in the sessions. And so let me just do the little announcement that we were waiting for. Remember that we start every session with a little brain teaser, and we ask persons to participate. So I got a few responses. I think some persons did the brain teaser after we were finished, but from those who did, as usual, we reached out. Can you send me some evidence of the words that you were able to find And let me just share with you that our winner was able to find Zoom link, camera, microphone, mouse, and internet. So congratulations to Ms. Joni Valentine, who won the brain teaser this evening, joining us from YouTube. Yeah, so we give her a little virtual clap. Congratulations, Joni. And
come on, guys, come. Let me see the clap
rare the
reaction.
reactions for those on
Exactly.
Zoom. Yes, you learned that just now. And so we close out with just a little bit about Omega Kappa as we've been doing for all the sessions. And I remind you to look that when you see this lovely Sigma Omega Kappa chapter, that is us. And this was our little brain teaser. So she was able to find 6 of the 8 words. Our presenter asked if it was in Spanish, and she teaches Spanish, so I don't know how she didn't realize it wasn't. But Sigma started in 1922. It was formed by 6 nursing students who wanted some activity to complement their training. We are headquartered in Indianapolis in the United States, and our vision is to have connected, empowered nurse leaders transforming global healthcare, and our mission is to develop nurse leaders anywhere to improve healthcare everywhere. So if you'd like to join the 135,000 plus active members across over 100 countries in about 540 chapters, we ask as an undergraduate that you must be in a undergraduate nursing program or the equivalent. We expect academic excellence. You should be in the highest 35% of your class, and you should have completed at least a half of the nursing curriculum. If you are transitioning from RN to your undergraduate degree, then we ask that you have completed 12 credits. If you're a graduate student, Sigma says you should have done at least a quarter of your curriculum, also have achieved academic excellence, and you must meet the expectation of academic integrity. Now, if you are one of our colleagues, we ask that you be legally recognized to practice in the country that you're in, have a minimum of an undergraduate degree or an equivalent, and demonstrate your achievement in nursing. So Sigma, through all the chapters, offers career mentorship, and Sigma themselves in general, access to our professional development courses. We have a large e-repository to network, to volunteer, and to attend online sessions, webinars, conferences, and physical. We've been seeing each other a lot virtually over this year, but we continue to pray that the pandemic we will be out on the better side of it as we are implementing and maintaining the protocols. So we are chapter 560, geographically located at the UWI School of Nursing, Mona. And though we're at UWI Mona, we have our members in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, the United States, and the United Kingdom. We became an official chapter in May of 2019, and we are comprised of nursing leaders and nursing students. This was our chartering day, and as my member loves to say, and we've all adopted it, we are okay. This is just a little bit of us. So this is us after health fair. You'd never believe we were tired or pretty and posing in our Omega Kappa shirts. We were at the launch of the Year of the Nurse in January of 2020. Can't believe it's been over a year. And this was our virtual induction last year, December. So we were just smiling for you. You can find us at sigmanursing.org. That's the general page for Sigma. At omegakappa.sigmanursing.org. That's our page. We're on Facebook as Omega Kappa Chapter, and we're on Instagram at Omega Kappa Caribbean, and you know how to find us via our email. So we ask you to just stay with us. We thank you for your support, and we hope that you've garnered some interest and will ask questions about Omega Kappa, and that you will strive to become empowered nurse leaders who will be changing healthcare anywhere. Mrs. Stewart Mccoy, I saw your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to say, guys, this is great. What you're doing is wonderful, and I'd like to laud you for that. Not just the aspect where the technology is concerned, but what you do. And given that we have moved to online, that you continue to reach out and to try to ensure that you reach and you still do what it is you do. So I just wanted to commend you on what it is you're doing. Keep it up. Well done. And that because we're moving into this online, of course, this is a teacher part of me coming in. Because we have moved into this online, I encourage each and every one of us that, and I remind us that learning never stops. Okay, so we should remember that we are simply using a new set of tools, but we're still doing the things that we have that passion for. And I tend to use the expression that Toffler uses. It's all about learning, unlearning, and relearning. And we have found that a number of things that we learned before in this new dispensation, in this digital dispensation, don't work as well. And therefore, we have to put away some things and learn new ones. And you're doing great. And I just want to congratulate you and wish you to keep it up. Well done now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've had a wonderful time with us. We are looking forward to having you on Wednesday. We close out our webinar series. It has been 3 great weeks, and we will be talking about wealth management. There are 3 conversations for us to have. We're looking at banking options, insurance options, and investment portfolios. And that's a great way that we will close off our series. And so we hope to see you on Wednesday. Have a very wonderful rest of your evening. Just remember, we are okay.